gathering. Welcome to you all, and thank you for the work you do in supporting your village, the Village to Village Network, and the Village Movement. Estimates suggest that there are about 50,000 village members nationwide. That would make villagers less than 1/10 of 1% of the above 65 population. We are small, but growing in numbers and reach, and we are championing a powerful idea that aging Americans can organize in their neighborhoods and have a meaningful impact on their health and well-being. They can use their life experiences to partner with each other, with businesses and with organizations, both governmental and non-governmental, to age on their own terms and live with meaning and purpose in their communities. Today's and tomorrow's gathering topics will cover national and local issues of interest to you. Learn and grow with us. Back to you, Barb.
Terrific. Thanks, Bill. While we have an action-packed agenda, one of the things I did want to point out is we have a lot of people in the room. If you want to go to your view, it's up in my computer, it's up in my right-hand corner. You can put speaker view on and see who's speaking. So I know there's 200 people in the room right now and growing. So click on that speaker view and you can see me talking. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our AARP panel. We're very excited to have Rodney, Harrell, Bill Armbruster, and Tim Murphy. Tim is the Policy Advisor, Housing and Livable Communities at AARP Public Policy Institute. Bill Armbruster is the Senior Advisor for the Livable Communities at AARP Livable Communities. And Rodney Harrell is the Vice President of Family, Home, and Community at AARP Public Policy Institute. This panel will provide an overview of AARP's approach to livable communities and housing, the AARP network of age-friendly states and communities, and potential examples of relationships between age-friendly communities and villages, and they already exist, policy solutions and trends, and how we can support age-friendly livable communities and villages. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Rodney. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Barbara, and thank you again, everyone, for joining us today. I'm really excited to be here. I'm glad that we're doing this virtually so that we could join so many of you all, and I'm excited to be joined by Bill and Tim. Just what we're going to do today is we're going to do a little bit of a tag team. I'm going to give an overview of AARP's approach to livable communities and housing. Then Bill is going to talk a little bit about the age-friendly network of states and communities. And Barbara mentioned that tie with villages there. And then Tim, as one of our senior policy advisors, is going to talk about livable communities policy solutions to close us out there. And I'll come back at the end just to kind of wrap up a little bit. But let me start with an overview of AARP's approach to livable communities and housing. And this is an important issue for us. And I've been at AARP for 15 years now. And in that time, the housing and livable communities work has risen because of a few things that are going on here. So let me talk the next slide here and show you one important thing that moves for us. This fact from the Census Bureau that by 2034, Americans age 65 and older will outnumber those under 18 for the first time in US history. And what that means is that we're going to have more older adults than younger children, younger families. Now, that's never been the case. And so the big issue for me is that this is been a fact of American life, that we've had more younger families, which has let us get away with designing homes, designing communities, designing transportation networks, and other things for younger people, and frankly, underestimating the needs of older adults in those. So the result is that we have communities with barriers, we have housing choices that don't meet our needs and the like. And so not only do villages step in to try to help people adjust to their circumstances, but AARP's entire livable communities agenda is tied to helping to address this fact. The idea that we have more people that need different options of communities than we have the actual options. And there's a couple other things that guide this work on the next slide here, that we know that more people are living alone. We know that more millions of Americans, 64 to be exact, are living in households with 2 or more generations. We know that we're getting more ethnically and racially diverse as a country, and the middle class is shrinking. So that households themselves are changing. The older population is changing. And again, we need to have the options that meet those needs. And unlike some other things that we work on or some other issues, changing a housing stock, changing a community, that's a big deal, right? It takes a long time if we're supposed to change millions of housing units or thousands of communities. And so in the meantime, we need to figure out how we can deal with these issues. Now, when I came to AARP way back in 2008, it was clear to me that many communities weren't prepared. At that point, we had to actually go out and talk to mayors and city leaders and others, even some urban planners whose job it is to think ahead about the fact that we are aging. And now we have many more of those people coming to us to ask about what they can do to address change in their communities. And that has been a significant change over that time. What they're realizing is that there is limited access to some of the amenities that people need. People don't have the ability to walk to a grocery store or a park or a library or other things that they might need in their community, that these things are out of reach for many people that are isolated physically in their homes. We know that there's a growing housing cost burden, that millions of Americans are paying too much for their housing costs, particularly older adults. And since housing is the biggest cost in most people's budgets, that means that the more we spend on housing, the less we have for other things that we need. So it's, again, limiting as well. We know that roughly 4 out of 5 neighborhoods in this country only have single family housing. So we don't have a lot of options. What happens if you want to downsize and stay in your neighborhood? Well, it's great if you've got an option to do that. If there's not, then you might need some supports to do that. You might need to think about shared housing. You might need to think about supports that you might get from perhaps your local village. And if you don't have one of those, you might just struggle, right? And so the idea that we need to have more housing options is something that has been important to us as well. And of course, as we aging, we know that there's a higher risk of falls and other issues that folks have in their homes. But according to a Harvard Joint Center study, less than 1% of the homes in the country have a set of features that support aging. Things like 0-step entrances, wide doorways, bathrooms on the first floor, and other things that really are made for us. And so again, all of those things move us to a place where we really need to think about how we make our housing work for us as opposed to making it limit us. And that's one of the things that we are very much focused on. And finally, that there are health disparities that in our livability index, for example, we can look at the health that exists across the country, and you'll see great disparities, not just regionally, that some parts of the country folks are doing better than others, but even in neighborhoods on the other side of town from the other. It's been said elsewhere that our health is determined by our zip code. And so the idea that we can help work with folks of different groups and different neighborhoods and different parts of the country to address what they are facing is just crucially important. We can't have one size fits all solutions. We can't have big, massive solutions that address all of these needs, but we need to look at these things in ways that work community by community. So all of this is juxtaposed with the fact that we know that people want to stay in their homes and communities as they age. So we look at all adults as 2/3 who want to stay in their home or community as long as they can. When you get older at the 50 plus, it's about 8 out of 10. And even if you look at the 65 plus, it's about 9 out of 10 want to stay in their homes and communities as long as they can. And so helping people to do this is one of our primary goals in the space. We know that older adults value communities that have things that help them support their health, that are safe to navigate and walk around in, and allow them to engage with others and be parts of their communities. And so, again, if those things are missing, it's up to those of us who have the ability to make change in communities to provide those for people. And we'll talk a little bit more about how we can make those things happen and how those things can be brought about for people in the talk that we're going to have today. And so let me jump quickly, though, to
right here.
somebody should probably mute if you could.
Okay.
And so let me talk quickly about defining what a livable community is. And so for us, the idea is that we need to create livable communities as a solution to all the problems and challenges that I've just talked about. And the livable communities have the options that enable people to meet their needs, regardless of their age, their income, their background, or other factors. And so the idea is that communities should serve people of all ages. If we've got communities, if we've got people of all ages in them, we need to make sure that they work for folks. And that's the goal that we're working towards. So we have an official definition of livable communities, which I'll read to you quickly. And it's a livable community is one that is safe and secure. It offers choices in where to live and how to get around. And it equitably serves residents of all ages, ability levels, incomes, races, ethnicities, sexual orientations, gender identities, and other backgrounds. Livable communities enhance personal independence, allow residents to remain in their homes and communities as they age, and they provide opportunities for residents of all ages, ability levels, and backgrounds to engage fully in civic, economic, and social life. And the idea, that's our definition, and the idea of having a livable community that does all those things is, simply put, provides every community resident, regardless of their age or other factors, to have the options they need to do what they want to do, remain in that community, to thrive in that community as long as they want. That's really what we're out here to do. And so many often ask me about why AARP is in this space and how long they've been there. And so as we talk about our approach to housing solutions, our founding story starts with Ethel Percy Andrus, AARP's founder, finding one of her colleagues living in a chicken coop back during the Depression. And the idea was, or the challenge was, that this person had lost her land in a deal gone wrong, and she did not have another place to live. Now that started AARP's long path on this work to have retirement security, financial security, and other issues really tying in with health. In my office, you can't see this other wall here, I've got a picture of the 1960s and I believe it's 60 or 61, our founder, showing this House of Freedom to Dwight Eisenhower. So basically, it's a home that has zero-step entries, wide doorways, and outlets. Many of the things that we would call universal design features today were in that home. And since that point, we've been looking at the ways that we could bring those into more housing. And from 2015 to present, we've really taken a more concentrated look at what we can do to change the future of our housing. We even put a website together called Future of Housing, with the idea of doing everything that we can to make sure that the housing stock meets people's needs. Not just we AARP, but we America. And the idea being that we need lots of people and lots of partners in that process. We need to do more to make our homes and communities work for people of all ages. So, when I go to conferences often and talk to people, I tell them that this isn't new to AARP. We've been in this for a while, but what's new is the idea that more and more partners are coming to the terms with the fact that we need to really think differently about our housing. And that's been really exciting for me as we go here. And so let me go to this last slide that I have to talk about, just quickly in a broad way, what our principles are in terms of housing itself. So as I mentioned, there's just not enough housing options for many reasons. So increasing the amount of options we have is the single best way to address our housing challenges. We need options in the places where people want to be, but also we need the types of housing that work for people of all ages. So that's one big focus of ours. We also know that since so many people are burdened by those housing costs, paying more than 30 or even 50% of their incomes for housing, that we need to address housing affordability. And so, again, providing the supply of housing, having the other government programs and things in place that can support housing affordability, having community partners work to support a range of housing options can help affordability as well. All of those things are important. And our housing, I'm particularly concerned about our housing being a barrier for us. The idea that our housing could either help support healthy behaviors, healthy living, or it could inhibit it. So homes that provide lots of dangers, lots of fall hazards, poor visibility, just other things that our homes could have, that indoor air quality, and just so many more things that could be dangerous for us in homes. Now, having houses that are designed for people of all ages, by whatever we call it, and there are many names for different efforts to increase and improve the accessibility of our housing, but having homes that are designed for people of all ages do the exact opposite. They enable us to be healthy and safe there, and frankly, interact with communities. In our upper right-hand corner, you'll see a house that we did in Memphis a couple of years ago, that we added a range of features to make that home more livable for people of all ages. We added a zero-step entrance. We added more lighting so people would see better. We added more space to navigate within the home, the bathroom, and the like. And that's just one example that we've tried to show about how we can do this on the ground. We'll give you some information later on in this presentation about our website and all we do to provide resources on all of these issues. But for now, I'll just say that we provide things to community leaders, to the general public as well, and everyone in between, to help people know that every one of us plays a role in making communities better. Every one of us plays a role in what we can do to help support creating more housing options that meet people's needs. So one big piece of that I'm going to ask Bill to talk to us about is our work on age-friendly communities. So at the community level, there are many things that we can do to work for people of all ages. So I'll turn it over to Bill Armbruster to talk us through that. Bill?
Thanks, Rodney. So again, I'm Bill Armbruster. I'm a senior advisor at AARP in our Livable Communities Department. But probably more importantly for this conversation, I manage the AARP network of age-friendly states and communities. We can go to the next slide. So I always want to start this. I think this is a village, but it's also, in the work you do, because there's a reason you're all here today. You see it in your communities, but I think it's also important to sort of have this information. We are halfway through these two maps between 2015 and 2030. So look at the map, find your state, and see what's happening within a 15-year period of time. And this isn't meant to scare anyone. It's just awareness. This is the reality. And this sort of goes on with what Rodney was talking about earlier. For the first time in history, we're going to have more people over the age of 65 than under 18. So it is something, it is a story that we need to tell in our communities. So if you have this when you're talking about your work as you're doing it in community, I think it's important for people to understand. And the more that we can keep people independent in their home or independent with supports in their home, the better off everybody is across our communities. Next slide, please. So for most of the world, when they talk about livable communities, Rodney gave a definition, and age-friendly communities, there's really not much of a difference. But when we at AARP are talking about age-friendly communities, we are talking where a municipality made a commitment to become a member of the AARP network, and the municipality's highest leadership said, yes, we are going to be involved with this. We are going to look at the work that we're doing, and we're going to see how we can become more age-friendly. So when I'm talking about age-friendly, it is very much the age-friendly network that we have with ARP, and I'm going to explain a little bit more about what that means if we go to the next slide. So first off, I just updated this, and we are now over 800 communities in the network. We started in 2012 with 10 communities and just have grown and grown and grown. And you can see here, almost a third of all Americans live in a community that is enrolled in the network. And you can see here on the pinkish states, those are states that have enrolled in the network as well. And almost 40% of all Americans live in a state that is enrolled in terms of population. And you can look to see where you are to see if you have dots connected to the work that you're doing. As I was going and reading through the chat, I see a lot of very familiar communities. I just see Montgomery County, Fremont, Austin, Texas, Fairfax, College Park. Those are just the ones that are up on my screen from the chat. So a lot of you already live in communities that have stepped up to say, yes, we want to become more age friendly. We want to really be considerate about everyone as they age within our communities. Next slide. So what does it mean when a community enrolls? It's initially a 5-year process. You enroll, and again, we don't make this a difficult thing to do. We have a short application. We ask people, what are you currently doing? What do you want to get out of this? Who's going to lead this work locally? And then once they come into the network, they spend that first year doing a community needs assessment. So either conducting a survey or looking at survey data that's been done in the last 2 years, doing listening sessions, really taking the time to say, what do people in our community need and want? And from there, they look at what they already are doing and they develop an action plan. What is it that we can do to take our community to the next level? What can we expand? What can we create? What are the opportunities here? And all of this is done connecting with key stakeholders around the community, and those vary from community to community. And then once they develop their action plan, they implement. They take 3 years to say, yes, these are the things that we wanted to do. Some are very short term, some are midterm, and some are setting themselves up for longer term, like Rodney was talking about housing. Sometimes communities are saying, yeah, we have to get ourselves set because we do know housing is a big issue or transportation is a big issue. They track this, they evaluate and create a progress report, and then just about all communities go on to create a second cycle. The one thing we hear from communities a lot is this has broken down barriers in our communities. That has really brought people together who we hadn't worked with in the past. There's just for the work that we want to do. The next slide, please. So what are the benefits for communities? We ask communities every year in a survey. It is about the partnerships. It is about the enable changes. It also really is important, and we hear from communities that it helps change sort of ageist perceptions that we are only talking about frail older adults, but we are talking about the aging process. So it really validates a lot of the work that's happening in community. We've got technical assistance, webinars, a way to connect with other communities across the network. And again, we just finished our annual Livable workshop last week talking about economic development and livability. So next slide. And again, this is what we're hearing from communities, the networking, feeling like you're not doing this on your own, the technical assistance, being able to bring in, again, other folks who aren't typically at the table with you, having transportation come in, having housing come in, not just aging services and home and community-based service providers, but really getting other folks who are connected, and it really helps grow this work at the local level. Next slide. So this is all framed around what we call the 8 domains of livability. And we look at the built environment, housing, transportation, outdoor spaces and buildings, but also look at the social environment of health and community supports, social participation, respect and social inclusion, communication, information, civic participation, and employment. And as communities go through the age-friendly process, they look at where they are across these 8 domains. There's sort of this mindset, this only works for large communities. This only works for communities that have capacity, but that's not true. Granted, we do have, LA, New York City, Philly, Atlanta in the network, but we also have communities of less than 100. And in fact, over 40% of our network are communities under a population of 25,000 residents. So this works at the level that you're at. And again, we don't dictate what you have to do. It is really about this process to say, how are we doing in transportation? And whether you actually have public transit or you're trying to solve these issues with ride share or volunteer transportation, really having the opportunity to dig deep into these different topics and see where can we do better, where are we doing well, and what is sort of aspirational for us as we go forward. Next. The other thing which is interesting for us is we don't dictate who leads this work or who convenes this work in community. You can see here just over half of age-friendly communities are convened by a municipal government, but then we've got age-friendly teams, which are typically coalitions or advisory boards. We've got the Aging Services Network. We've got volunteers, we've got not-for-profits, but then more recently, it's exciting, we're starting to see colleges and universities step up, healthcare step up, regional planning commissions, chambers of commerce, and even foundations who are leading this work. So again, this allows for this to work in any type of community, because we're not saying, well, if you don't have this convener, you can't enroll. We're like, who is that? Who do people trust in your community? Who's going to help lead this? Again, this is just the convening piece. Who is that lead organization? The partners and the stakeholders that come to the table are significant as well. Next slide. The other thing I think, to me, which is very exciting, like I said, we survey and listen to our communities frequently. We look at the action plans, we look at progress reports that communities are doing, and we're starting to see, if you had asked me about 8 years ago, where's all this work being led, it was really within the Aging Services Network. Now we're starting to see other places within municipalities, other departments stepping up to say, hey, I think we need an age-friendly lens. We need to look at the work we're doing. So we're seeing in our communities, a third are having parks and rec departments involved. We're seeing economic development, planning and zoning, libraries, public health, just a council on aging or an office for aging leading this work. We're starting to see a much greater acceptance and sort of happiness to say, oh, wow, yeah, we want to do this. We see ourselves in this work. So that's an exciting thing too. And I'm sure that relates to the work that you all are doing as well. Next slide. The other thing, we hear is, how are you doing? How is this age-friendly work impacting the work you're doing? So we're seeing communities saying 68%, this is across all communities enrolled in the network, no matter when they enrolled, 68% said they were able to advocate for policy change. They were able to say, hey, this is a barrier, here's an opportunity. They were able to do that. And 86% overcame barriers to age-friendly change. And this could be anything from programmatic support, overcoming other barriers that aren't necessarily related to specific policy, but that the way that a community goes about, or how we're listening, how we're doing. So again, we're seeing really great impact from the work that communities are doing. Next slide. And then as sort of a follow-up, this is not actually a repeat of the other slide that I had up earlier. Communities have comprehensive plans, they have pedestrian plans, they have transportation plans. Communities are frequently doing these plans to say, what is our future going to look like? In our last survey last year, we're seeing that now an age-friendly lens or an age-friendly provisions have been included into public spaces in terms of parks and trails, transit, transportation. So it's not just, transportation is not just about moving people to get back and forth to work. They're thinking about people of all ages, all life segments. And the same is holding true for housing, for communication, for community and health services. So this is very exciting that this work is going beyond just what communities say they're going to do and do in their action plans, to actually be embedded into the culture of the community. And when you start to do this, then there's a greater readiness to say, all right, what else can we do? How else can we do this work? Next slide. So villages and age-friendly. Barbara and I actually were at the American Society on Aging conference, I think, right before COVID, to actually talk about how villages and age-friendly can connect, what the opportunities are. And there's many. We see villages that lead to enrollment in the network because of the great work that you all are doing. People are like, wow, what else can we be doing in terms of leading to our community to be more age-friendly? We see villages and age-friendly working together. I think that was one of the session that Barbara and I did actually focused on Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and how that connectivity, how they were able to support each other. And the other thing we see is where we have either age-friendly leadership on village boards, or village board leaders and on age-friendly advisory groups. So where's the connectivity? How do we do this together? The other thing we see frequently in our age-friendly action plans, when the community's in their second year and they said, this is what we're going to do, frequently see them saying, we need to start a village. This is a way to help solve problems in
Hey, Bill. All right, looks like Bill's audio is paused briefly.
Oh no.
Hey, Bill.
Oh, am I back?
Yeah, you're back. Just repeat like maybe the last minute or 30 seconds of what you shared.
Sure. Like I said, lastly, we do see age-friendly communities looking to develop villages. But the one thing I have seen after talking to many of them, they're not sure where to go. So I think there's an opportunity here. Again, we promote the Village to Village network, but an opportunity for communities to create, get connected with that. And the other thing, as a village, you should know our department, AARP Livable Communities, hosts an annual conference called the AARP Livable Community Challenge Grant. These are quick action grants that can be done in like 90 days. They're sort of like startup. It's like if only money. So I do encourage you all to look and apply. That cycle begins again in this January. And they are, again, quick action grants. And there's everything from our standard grants. We also have some grants to help if you're working on issues related to like walkability. And then we also have some larger grants that are being finalized right now. But look up the AARP Community Challenge Grant. I think it's an opportunity you should all look into. If you feel like there's just something else you want to do, another opportunity. Next slide. And again, we have a lot of resources. I know Tim and Rodney will have more as well, but we've got a newsletter that comes out weekly that talks about different aspects related to livability. We've got an interactive livable communities map. So if you're not sure if your community's in the age-friendly network or a community challenge grant, you can find that on the livable communities map. There's also the site for the challenge grant program itself. And then we have a variety of free publications, very much talking about what Rodney was talking about on housing, on transportation, on public spaces and parks. So please feel free to go in and take advantage of those resources. With that, I think I'm turning it over to Tim.
Thanks, Bill. So Rodney and Bill have shared a lot about community livability and age-friendly communities. This section of the presentation will highlight just a few different policy solutions that help contribute to livable and age-friendly communities. So in Rodney's portion of the presentation, he previously mentioned that AARP's age-friendly housing strategy consists of 3 different components or pillars. And the first one really recognizes the need for housing options as an individual ages. Certain forms of housing can help support caregiving and social engagement opportunities. Examples include co-housing, multi-generational housing, home sharing, and housing with supportive services. All of these can help enhance caregiving, as well as that social connectivity between generations, with other older adults. All of these can provide kind of those opportunities, or increased or enhanced opportunities. Another housing option that can meet multiple needs are what are technically known as accessory dwelling units. And ADUs for short are also known as backyard cottages or backyard homes, in-law suites, casitas, or second units. And really, regardless of what they're called, ADUs are meant to be an independent, smaller home on a property with another home. And they're independent because they have their own living quarters, their own sleeping space, a kitchen, and a bathroom, a full bathroom. And so ADUs really are quite flexible in that they can appear in a variety of different situations on a property, as illustrated by this diagram here. They can be detached from the main home, so they could be a standalone building on a property, or they could be a detached garage that's been converted to an accessory dwelling unit. Or they could be within the main home. They could be attached to the main home. So there are a variety of different situations that, depending on the context and of the property and the needs of the owner, there are a variety of different situations in which they can be developed or established. And so along with these different situations, ADUs can really support folks of all ages in a variety of different scenarios. Caregiving being a very important example, where a caregiver could live in the accessory dwelling unit and provide care to the resident of the main house. Multi-generational families, you could have adult parents living in the ADU, and their children and their grandchildren live in the main home, or older adults, potentially grandparents, let's say, or parents, could live in the main home, and a young adult, a child or a grandchild who's starting out in their career could live in the ADU. And it provides that opportunity for that multi-generational living and continued connectivity. between generations. Additional examples of situations where ADUs could occur as a source of income. So if an individual who owns the main home and lives there is on a fixed income, as an example, renting an ADU could help provide additional income. And then finally, in thinking about accessibility, which I'll touch on a little bit more in a few minutes, an ADU could offer single-story living that's in a smaller space that's therefore easier to navigate for an older adult or an individual living with a disability. And so when it comes to ADUs, Rodney mentioned that we would touch and build to that we would touch on a few different resources that AARP provides. On accessory dwelling units, AARP has published resources on ADUs for community members, for interested homeowners, as well as policymakers. So some of the examples on this slide include an introductory primer that provides really additional background on ADUs. We prepared a model act for state legislators, as well as a model ordinance for local governments, so towns, cities, counties, who are interested in developing either legislation or zoning rules that can help permit ADUs. And then we've also published just this past year a report on key barriers and potential solutions that can help expand opportunities for ADU development. And then the fourth resource I want to kind of dedicate a separate standalone slide to. This publication, the ADU Design and Development Guide, is really a guide to help individuals design and develop an ADU. And so it features different model floor plans for different ADUs, different types of ADUs that, an interested homeowner or someone who's interested in creating an ADU can review and adapt to suit their needs, to help provide kind of additional housing opportunities or housing options for themselves or for a family member. Another set of housing options that AARP looks at is middle housing, which is really a category of housing, types that exists on a spectrum between single detached homes or single family detached homes and mid-rise and high-rise multifamily housing. And so these housing types include things like duplexes and triplexes or 3-unit buildings or townhouses. Another example are what are known in some parts of the country as bungalow courts, in other parts cottage courts, which are kind of small single family detached homes kind of around a shared courtyard. All of these are examples of middle housing. And so, historically, these housing types were frequently built in the early part of the 20th century. And they were often interspersed in neighborhoods with single detached houses and small apartment buildings in the 1920s and in the 1930s. And then what happened was in the 1940s and the 1950s, a movement began to amend zoning regulations in towns and cities across the country to severely limit where these types of housing could be built or outright prohibit them from being built in certain neighborhoods. And so this lack of production of these housing types led to this term missing middle housing, which is a term that is quite frequently used today. And so when we think about our housing stock that exists in the United States today, our housing really reflects these historical zoning decisions from the 1940s and the 1950s. According to the 2021 American Housing Survey, around 64% of our housing stock or residential buildings in the US today are single-family detached houses. when it comes to buildings that are 2 to 4 dwelling units, so anywhere from a duplex to a 4-unit apartment building, a fourplex, that's only 7% of our housing stock. So we've seen this kind of range of housing types really shrink as a part of our larger national housing stock. And so, like ADUs, middle housing can provide additional housing options for all individuals as they age. So when we think about these housing types, they're generally smaller than a single-family detached house. And so because of that, they have a smaller per housing unit land cost. And so they generally are more attainable as either a rental or a home ownership opportunity than a single-family detached home. And so when we think about middle housing and some of the configurations of what middle housing can take, there are a number that can exist as one-story options, like a one-story cottage in a cottage cluster, or the first floor of a duplex that's stacked with one unit on top of the other. And so these one-story options can help provide stair-free living. They can provide step-free entrances, and then an opportunity for older adults to continue to live in the neighborhood that they live in, but in a more accessible home. And so with middle housing and all of these options, as Rodney noted, it's really about increasing housing options so that if an individual's needs change over time, either over time or suddenly, that there are options available that meet their needs and enable them to remain in their community if that's what they want. And so on middle housing, when it comes to resources, AARP has published a primer on middle housing, what it is, where it went, and how it can help provide opportunities and options for folks of all ages, as well as a companion model act for states that really wish to consider statewide legislation related to middle housing. The second component to AARP's age-friendly housing strategy that Rodney mentioned is increasing housing affordability. So when we use the term housing affordability at AARP, we're using it really as an overarching term that encompasses everyone. And the fact that everyone should have housing options that are attainable or affordable to them based on their income. For middle and upper income households, it can involve different types of single-family detached houses or condominiums or apartments. And then for lower income households, there's a significant shortage in the amount of housing that's available. And usually that takes the form of rental housing. And so there's a lack of housing that's attainable or affordable based on their income. And what we see is really that this is a national issue. It's not just in the places that you would expect, the big cities on the East Coast or on the West Coast, but we're seeing this affordability crunch across the country, and it's really affecting lower income households and older adults who are on fixed incomes across the country. And so AARP really seeks to promote housing opportunities for both market rate housing as well as subsidized housing. And on the subsidized housing side of things, what we're talking about is housing opportunities that are affordable to lower income individuals and older adults on fixed incomes who are of lower income as well. And so as part of this work about affordability, AARP recognizes that really addressing affordability means seeking to provide stable housing opportunities for lower income households and older adults, and addressing kind of the historical policy and financing and zoning decisions that really kind of discriminated against and excluded certain segments of the population, particularly people of color. When we think about these conditions that exist in terms of policy, in terms of the historical decisions around financing and zoning, and about what types of housing can be present in certain parts of communities, these conditions are really rooted in these past decisions, but they're still present today. and they're felt today. And so these decisions have really resulted in a lost opportunity to enable housing choices, housing options, as well as homeownership opportunities over a period of decades. And then lastly, housing accessibility is that third pillar to AARP's age-friendly housing strategy. And as Rodney mentioned in his portion of the presentation, Harvard University estimates that only 1% of the country's existing homes possess a set of kind of key accessibility features that would really allow someone to live comfortably and safely in their home. Things like a zero-step entry, single-floor living, wide halls that can really accommodate up to a wheelchair, lever-style handles, etc. And so really to address this, universal design and visitability principles can be applied to new as well as existing housing. So universal design is really the principle that people of all ages, all ability levels can use buildings, products, and the built environment without adaptation, and that includes housing. Visitability is really a subset of universal design that addresses access to the main part of the house to really ensure that visitors to a house, visitors with mobility limitations, are able to go to homes of friends and relatives, and being able to do this is important. Obviously, it provides opportunity for social connection and life-enriching interactions. And so when it comes to visitability, those features include, wide doorways, a wide doorway into the home, a zero-step entrance into the home, and a no stair access to a toilet within that that first floor of the home with space for maneuverability. And so I think the first photo, the exterior of this home, was featured in the Rodney's portion of the presentation. And so these slides really illustrate these universal design concepts that AARP seeks to promote. The zero-step entrance into the home, open spaces within the home for navigation in the kitchen, in the living areas, and in the bathrooms, wide doorways. And so really, AARP really supports efforts to increase universal design, and that can take multiple forms. That could be the establishment of requirements that new construction should incorporate some of these features, or the provision of incentives, such that developers or individuals building homes are incentivized to include these features, because as we know, our current housing stock lacks, the vast majority of our housing stock lacks these features, and we know that our country continues to age, and so as we age, we're all going to need kind of additional assistance in our homes, and this goes to helping to support additional housing options as we age. And so to assist in promoting and encouraging universal design and visitability, AARP developed its Home Fit Guide, which is shown here, which really provides more than 100 suggestions to help individuals and families make their existing home more age-friendly. And so the guide can be used by a homeowner who wants to make changes to their home, and it can also be used to help educate policymakers on the housing options that communities need, so that all residents of all ages can really live safely and comfortably. And then another aspect of community livability that we want to highlight is transportation access for older adults and the use of volunteer transportation. When we examine, AARP examined state laws regarding volunteer transportation, we found that only 7 states prohibit denying or canceling insurance, imposing a surcharge, or increasing insurance rates, simply because a driver is a volunteer and conducts volunteer transportation. Volunteer provided transportation really plays a crucial role in supporting individuals as they age. And insurance can impose significant barriers to driver recruitment and really threatens this support system. And so, you know, there are a variety of different things that can be done in this area. One, as evidenced by this slide, one that can be done in certain states and has been done is ensuring that state law prohibits insurance companies from doing these things, from denying or canceling or imposing surcharges or increasing rates. Another solution in looking at state laws is to increase clarity in state codes to help really differentiate between volunteer drivers and then, you know, drivers for Lyft or Uber and other for-service or other for-hire service providers. And so, you know, what we've shared today in this portion of the presentation is really just a small subset of different policy solutions that can support community livability and age-friendly housing and age-friendly communities that really AARP envisions can support everyone as they age. And I think it's important to note that it doesn't take just one of these things. It really takes a combination of a variety of different policy solutions. And it will take that to really help increase housing options, increase livability in our communities, and really to make our communities age-friendly. So with that, I'll turn it back over now to Rodney for some closing remarks here.
Thanks, Tim, and thanks, Bill, as well. I think you've both talked about some of the important things that AARP is doing and providing some of the solutions that we have for communities. And I think that's hopefully very useful to the folks that we're talking to on the call today. I know there's some questions, but I want to get to just a few closing thoughts and close our part of the presentation by bringing us back to how we actually make change. And so as we've talked about the solutions, to me, there's three main parts here. And the idea is that we should be using policy, whether we're talking about legislators, legislation, urban planners, people that have the power to make change in communities through legislation. That's certainly an important lever of community change. One lever is industry. We actually need home builders and others to make the homes and products and services that we need to be able to thrive in communities at all ages. I mean, they're certainly an important part of things as well. But the third part is people. And that means that we all have a role to play here. The idea that we are in charge of our own homes, in charge of our own families, and we should be making housing decisions that work better for us. We should know that there's a chance that we may stop driving one day, or we may have some health issue, or our income may drop, or our spouse may pass. And so thinking ahead about our own individual housing choices is very important to me, and part of what we do here with all of our work to outreach to individuals. But also that we have an important role to play in supporting the types of changes that our communities could have. We should be supporting age-friendly community efforts. We should be supporting accessory dwelling unit legislation and other pieces of policy change that might improve the options that we have in community. And this people category is where villages play a role, because not only can we help inform and educate people in our communities about some of these options we're talking about, some of these things that may benefit folks, but villages also play a crucial role in supporting people in the absence of some of these things. So when we don't have the things in the community that we need, villages can help step in and fill that gap. So I want to charge you all and ask you to help us with that effort. On the next slide, I just want to share our AARP Future of Housing website, aarp.org/future of housing. And yes, to those who've asked in the chat, we'll make these slides available to folks. You don't have to scribble all these things down. But what I really like about this new site that we've launched a couple of months ago is that it dives into all the housing challenges that we face and really explains in much more detail why everyone should be aware of the housing issues we've discussed today and how we should play a part. So that may be interesting for you as well. Another resource I want to highlight is our Livability Index. And this is a resource that measures every neighborhood and every community in the country across these 7 categories you've mentioned, that you see mentioned on the right-hand side of your slide. The idea is that we want to help people understand what's in their community. What might the next community have? What might the neighborhood across town have? And so I think this is a very good tool for villages to use because it gets down to what's called the census block group level. It measures neighborhood by neighborhood. So if you type in an address, it'll look in just those several city blocks around your address to tell you what's going on there. So it's a great tool for it's a great tool for city leaders who are looking at the kinds of policies that they may want to make and change, and we track some of those policies in the index, but also measures what's going on the ground, so that whether it's a city leader, a mayor, whether it's a village leader or just an individual resident, could use this to understand what's going on in their neighborhood, or look at what kind of neighborhood might work for themselves or their family. So really excited about this tool, and a new version, a new updated version is coming October 31. So please stay tuned for more information on that. We'll have a release event, and we'll share it with Barbara and others to share with you all. And finally, I want to turn to this slide, which again lists all of the resources we've mentioned today. Everything we found can really be at those top 2 links, our policy and our general Livable page. But again, we'll share all these slides with you all so that you can get access to these resources at any point in time. What I want to leave you with is the idea that at AARP, we think of ourselves as innovators in aging, everyday innovators in aging, with the idea that we're always doing something to help make communities better, to make lives better for people 50 plus. And you know what? I think of villages as a part of that as well, and village leaders as innovators in aging. So I charge all of you to help think about ways that you can innovate within your community, that you can provide things that fill some of these gaps to help people lead better lives. And I thank you for everything you've done so far. And we really appreciate the support you're getting to make communities better for people, and know that AARP is here as a friend in that effort to improve the lives of everyone that you serve. So thank you so much. And I'll turn it back over to Barbara, or whoever our next speaker is.
Actually, Rodney, Tim, Bill, fabulous. Lots of information. Yes. If we can't say it enough, yes, 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 we are sharing the slides. Promise. And the video. So it will be, I'll get it from Tim. Give us a couple days, guys. You know, it's not going to be instant, but we will share all the presentations, everything that comes out of the next 2 days. Everything is coming your way. We can't thank you enough for your time, energy, and the commitment for livable communities, and working with the villages. And I know I sent a host of different villages over to you, but we already there. So jump in. You know, if you haven't done it, you know, do it. You know, start it. Have a conversation. That's all it takes. So thank you all so much. Our next, I'm going to turn this over to Steve Gurney. And he's going to discuss, we have breakout sessions coming now. And again, I want to reiterate, the breakout sessions, if you don't go into one and you want to have the materials for the other one, we are sending all the materials out. So you can visit one. We are, you know, we have room monitors. We'll be recording each of the breakout sessions. And so you'll be able to see ones that you may not be able to do right now. So Steve,
right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, thanks, Barbara. And amazing kickoff to the conference for 2 days. And big round of applause to everybody in the audience. We didn't have to mute anybody's microphone, and just had one minor glitch there with our speaker, but this is to be considered. So what we're going to do next is that basically, so what I want you to think about is that right now we are in the main hall. Over 300 people are here, okay? And now we all have the choice to go to 4 different breakout groups. Okay. Now you should be able to see these breakout rooms at the bottom of your screen if you are on a computer, and I'm not sure what it looks like on a whatchamacallit, on a phone, but you should see that you have a choice of 4 different breakout rooms. The first one is challenges and advantages of an all-volunteer village. The second is tips for effective grant writing. The third is challenges of executive transition. And the last is social fit. And you can click on the button that says join. Whoops, let me get that person.
I'm trying to find it.
Okay. And you can click on that button to join. Now, if you cannot join, if you're having a hard time joining that, you're going to be stuck here in this room, the main conference room with me, and you just need to say, Steve, I'm Bill Smith, and I'd like to go to the grant writing thing, and I can manually move you in there. But I'm hoping that most of you can get over there and on your own and enjoy your
Steve, we're having some issues with the breakouts, and actually, when I pull mine up, it doesn't show the breakout rooms, but it shows the participants.
okay. Yeah, that's because you're a co-host. It should.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
it should only show.
All right,
People are getting
Judith.
they're getting into the rooms. Okay.
Okay, okay, good.
And then-
Judith, you have a question?
I don't see the breakout rooms.
Okay. Do you
Okay.
know which one you want to go to, Judith?
I do 1A, and I'm also probably going to want to flip over and visit another one during the time.
Okay. Let's see. And you're Judith Allen Cleveland. Well, I can put you in the first one, and from there it's whatever happens.
Hey,
Excuse me, it isn't showing on the main screen. And the only way I can access is by going to the little 3 dots at the bottom and clicking, and it allows me to join a breakout room, but it definitely is not showing on the main screen.
Yeah, no, that's where it's supposed to be. Where those 3 buttons are, 3 dots
Right.
at the bottom. It says breakout rooms, and then you should be able to select to join a room. And
Steve,
yep.
this is Kathy and Gail. We're doing the breakout room 4. We can't get in.
Okay, what's your
1D.
No, but what's your name on the screen?
Gail, Kahl.
Gail. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna move you over there.
And we're the moderators. That's why we're concerned.
Yeah, yep.
Okay, we have time. Steve,
Yep.
can you put me into the grant writing, please?
No.
Yeah. All right, Barbara Sullivan into tips.
No.
Okay. All right. Okay, so just folks, just if you again at the bottom of your screen, there should be 3 dots that says more. You click on those, and then it should say breakout rooms, and you should select it. But if you can't make that work, just shout out your name and tell me which one you want to go to.
Steve, this is
Kristen?
Brian McGinnis. Can
Brian.
you put me in 1A, please?
Yeah.
Zoom on the
Okay.
bottom.
Christine McKenna, 1D, Social Fit.
Okay, so now let's go to the breakout room.
Allison Dykstra, 1A, please.
Come
Okay.
on in. And it's
Gotcha.
not letting us there, huh? No.
Okay.
Sally,
Steve,
Sally.
I'm Mary Jane Atwater, and I'm a monitor in executive transitions.
Okay, Mary Jane Atwater and Executive Transitions 1C. Okay.
Okay,
Sally,
thank you.
Sally Kimball, 1D, please.
What was the first name?
Sally Kimball,
Okay,
Kimball.
Kimball.
Social fit, please, 1D.
Sally.
Oh, how about here?
I'm not seeing.
Not that.
Which
if
one?
you're Okay,
Thank-
Sally. This.
Oh,
Oh. Where are you, Sally? Oh, sorry.
Why, oh, that's the people in it.
Oh,
Okay,
David Pfeffer in 1A.
we're in it, but. oh,
Okay, sorry, I
sorry.
gotta
this is
get
where
over David.
Not even in the room.
Yeah, no,
Pfeffer.
I'm trying to get you guys in. Hold on.
it'll close. 23 minutes, and that's when Travis will start it.
Yeah, but are we in the room? I don't know if we are in it.
Should we mute?
Oh my God. Oh, geez,
The
guys.
breakout sessions have disappeared.
Okay, hold on, guys. I'm not sure what happened here. Okay, open all rooms. Okay. Wait, oh, come on, wait. Here, we're gonna start over again. Sorry.
I got booted out of the.
Yeah, yep, no. Yeah, sorry, guys.
Okay, we all got booted, so.
Yeah. Bear with me here.
And there is no longer an option to join.
No, I
us.
know it's
Okay.
we had we had a little bit of a hiccup here. The good news is we are still ahead of plan. It's still not. So hold on.
Is there somebody that's leading this
Yeah,
section?
no, sorry, Margie, this is Steve Gurney. We had a little technical hiccup here and
No, I know, but people were just introducing themselves, so I'm wondering what
Yeah.
is the goal?
No, we are.
There are two of us who are leading it.
Yeah, so okay, we're gonna have to start all over again, folks, but hold on a second. Okay, okay, everything is set correctly. I don't understand why. Okay, so I'm gonna open the rooms again and hopefully we can take where we left off. Okay, but and then I'm gonna keep on trying to move you all into okay. What the heck? Okay.
Tell people they need to move to the 3 dots of more to find it.
Yeah, but hold on a moment. I just got to
More.
okay. All right. So it looks this was a total technical glitch there that I had all the settings correctly. Okay. So those of you who are now hearing my voice, you are in the main room and I can begin moving you to the breakout rooms unless you are able to do it yourself. And again, it's in down at the bottom, click the 3 buttons and that says more, and you should see where you can manually join the breakout room. If you can't, shout out your name and I will get you over there.
Gail Call.
Okay, hold on, Gail. I got to do it one at a time. Sorry, Gail.
We're the host of the
Yeah,
fourth
I
one.
gotcha, Gail. Gail. Huh. Okay, Gail, I am wondering why I'm not seeing you on my list here. Hold on.
He was on it before.
Yep.
No 3 dots.
Okay. Gail. Okay. You're going to which one?
4 D.
D. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, David Pfeffer, 1A.
David Pfeffer, 1A.
Lauren Phillips, 1C.
Phillips. Okay.
Sally Kimball, 1D.
This is David Pfeffer again. You did not get me into the room.
You didn't get a prompt.
I did, but it disappeared instantly.
Okay, which one again?
1A.
Huh. Okay, yeah, David, sorry, hold on, I'm not getting. Oh, I'm wondering if we're at capacity on 1A. Because it's not, it says that you're prompted to go here.
Where am I prompted? Because I hear you.
Yeah, okay, here, let me, because yeah, I'm afraid that if I click another button, you're going to go into another room. Here, I mean, what you can do, I'm gonna prompt you to 1B, go into 1B, and then come back out, and I can move you to 1A. Okay, so here's the prompt right now. Okay, who else needs to go move?
Emily Glines, 4D, or social fitness.
Okay. All right.
I'm in group 1.
Jane. Group 1. Huh. Hey, Jane. Okay, Jane, I'm going to do the same thing that I did to the other guy. I have you prompted, but I'm gonna put you in 1B, but then just leave that room and then come back, and I think I can put you back in 1A.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else?
Steve, I just joined. I left another meeting. I want to do the village, the model, the volunteer village
Okay,
group.
Diane Watson, and that is 1A. Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's David Pfeffer. Can you put me back in 1A?
Yep. Okay. Now I can do it. Okay, so whatever you did when I gave it to you, this is for 1A.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Anybody else?
Carol Paquette, 1A.
Oh, you're famous, Carol. There you go.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
Steve, I was in for a minute and they bumped me out. So could you put me back to 1A?
Diane Watson. Okay. Okay, Diane, what I got to do is move you to 1B, then leave that room, come back in, and then I can put you in 1A. Unfortunately, I don't know what's on your all screens to guide you on how to get you in there. Okay.
That's okay. B to A. I'll come back to you is what you're saying, right?
Got
Okay.
it.
May I get moved to 1B?
And that's Emily?
Yes, please.
Okay. Emily. Okay.
Kathy Webb, 1A.
Okay, Webb. Okay.
Lauren Phillips, 1A.
Okay, Phillips. Okay.
Okay, I'm back, Steve.
Okay, great. So Watson to which one? 1A?
What 1A? Uh-huh.
Okay.
Thank you.
Kathy Webb to 1A.
Webb. Okay, let's see. Okay, Kathy, I got to do the same thing. I got to put you in 1B, then leave that room and come back, and I can put you in 1A.
Okay.
I don't know why I don't know why, so just until I figure it out. Okay. Anybody else?
Steve, can you put Jen Prunty in 1A?
Yep. There you go.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
Kathy Webb to 1A.
Oh, okay, so it worked. Okay. So now you are in 1A. Okay, there you go. Okay. All right. Anybody else who can hear my voice that wants to go to one of the breakout rooms? Just unmute. And again, for those who can hear my voice, all you go down to the bottom of your screen, it says more, and then there should be 3 dots that says more. There should be breakout groups you can join manually, but if you need me to put you in there, open up your mic, tell me your name and where you want to go. And let's see. Okay, so let's see. I see a few folks that are listening are here in the main room. If you hear me talking and you want to go to one of the breakouts, just let me know. Like Carol Corkate, I see you. Did you? Okay. All right. Hi, Carol. Did you want to go in a breakout? You need to unmute your mic.